by the government to return to work and school. And one more also from Tripoli. Special guards gathering at main squares and the Revolutionary Committee headquarters. And just before I hand back to Sammy, Venezuela's Hugo Chavez, considered one of Muammar Gaddafi's friends, has been getting involved in the online chatter. Let's bring up his Twitter page for you. Translation: long live Libya and its independence. Gaddafi is facing civil war. I'll leave you to make more of that of what you want. But before, Sammy, let's find out more about Latin America's reaction to the crisis in Libya with Daljit in our Washington News Center.
MK, thanks very much. Well, Libya's government has spent years strengthening relations with Latin American nations, mostly through investments. AlJazeera's Gabriel Elizondo reports from Sao Paulo now on the region's divided reaction to Gaddafi's crackdown.
Libya and Latin America. A close look shows that for years, Muammar Gaddafi has been quietly cultivating economic and diplomatic relations in Latin America that might now be working to his advantage. Consider Cuba and Nicaragua. Reuters news agency obtained documents that claim to show that Libya gave both countries interest-free loans, Nicaragua as much as $300 million. Now, Nicaraguan leader Daniel Ortega is the only Latin America leader who has spoken out in defense of Gaddafi, saying he is, quote, waging a great battle to defend his nation. And Cuba's Fidel Castro cautioned this week against a rush to judgment against the Libyan leader. Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez has been a frequent visitor to Gaddafi in Libya. Relations have strengthened, and there have reportedly been more than 150 diplomatic and economic accords signed between the two nations in the past few years. The two leaders are so close, there was a rumor started by Western diplomats that Gaddafi had fled to Venezuela earlier this week. The rumor turned out to be false and attracted sharp criticism by Venezuela's foreign minister. And here in Brazil, the relationship with Libya remains complicated. In recent years, Brazil has become a major trading partner with the Middle East and North Africa, $5.8 billion last year alone. And just in Libya, some of Brazil's biggest construction companies have contracts there worth billions more. Now, Brazil has growing international diplomatic influence, but it appears right now they don't want to use it. Brazil's new president, Dilma Rousseff, has said absolutely nothing about what's going on in Libya. But as violence continues in Libya, the presidents of Mexico, El Salvador, and Colombia have all spoken out.
I would like to express my deep sorrow, my indignation, and my sadness for the way the civilians are being massacred, particularly in the case of Libya.
Peru is the only country in Latin America to break all diplomatic ties with Libya, making it the rare exception in a region that otherwise is now playing a delicate diplomatic dance with a Libyan leader they all once seemed so close to. Gabriel Elizondo, AlJazeera, Sao Paulo.
In other news from the Americas, the U.S. military in Afghanistan is being accused of using methods common in psychological warfare to manipulate U.S. politicians. NATO's top commander in Afghanistan, General David Petraeus, has called for an investigation. According to the Rolling Stone magazine, General William Caldwell illegally used what's referred to as PSYOPs, or psychological operations, to secure more troops and funding for the war. The report says that Senators Carl Levin, Jack Reed and John McCain were just some who were targeted during visits to Afghanistan. A spokesperson for Caldwell has denied the allegations. Well, for more on how this incident will impact U.S. efforts in Afghanistan, I spoke to John Pike. He's a military analyst and director of globalsecurity.org.
Really, it's just advertising, government relations by another name. It really sounds a lot worse than it is. It sounds like the Manchurian Candidate.
To me, it sounds like somebody lobbying to keep the war effort going.
Well, they're going to be doing that regardless of what other hat they wear, because that's their job to advocate for their program. The problem, though, is that the message they're trying to send to the Taliban is the Americans are going to stay forever. And the message you're sending to the Congress is we're going to be pulling out pretty soon now. Now, it's hard enough to keep those two messages in sync with each other, but when you've got the same guys telling one story in the morning and the opposite story in the afternoon, that's just a bit much to bear.
But what does this mean for President Obama's AFPAC strategy? Does it help him in terms of getting out of Afghanistan eventually, or does it undermine his strategy? And it seems like the military and the politics is getting a little kind of cloudy here. Somebody seems to have crossed the line.
I think that it undermines it because it undermines the credibility of one of the leading commanders over there, because it demonstrates very bad judgment on his part in having his propaganda people brief congressional staff. Now, congressional and senators, they know that they're being fed a story when they go over there, but I mean, let's at least have the government relations people tell them the good news rather than having the propaganda people tell them the good news. It simply fails to pass the Washington smell test.
But why would they want to continue to sort of lobby to keep the war going?
Well, they think that it's working, and they think that if we stay the course, eventually we'll wind up with something that's describable as victory. I think that the concern on the part of the American military is that the United States did not lose, their view is the United States did not lose.
So the implicit message is if you don't give more money to this war,
it's going to be another Vietnam. It's going to be another Vietnam.
Losing it, and that's all that matters, that we have to win.
That's right. That's right.
Aviation titan Boeing has beat out Airbus to win a $35 billion contract with the U.S. Air Force. Pentagon officials say Boeing would be awarded an initial $3.5 billion to design and deliver 18 aerial refueling tanker planes by 2017. Following the announcement, Boeing's stock prices rose 3.5% in after-hours trading. And that's all from me and the rest of the team here in Washington. Now back to Sammy in Doha.
Thanks, Daljeet. Well, Julian Assange is condemning the extradition system as unfair. The WikiLeaks founder says he'll appeal after a British judge ruled he can be extradited to Sweden, where he's wanted for questioning about rape and sexual assault. Tim Friend reports.
This decision is a major blow for Julian Assange and WikiLeaks. The whistleblower who revealed secret US embassy cables to Washington's anger and embarrassment must now face the possibility of a trial on sex charges in Sweden. He says they're politically motivated and designed to smear his reputation. He'll appeal and could still avoid extradition.
What we saw today at Belmarsh was a rubber stamping process that comes as no surprise, but is nonetheless wrong. A rubber stamping process that is a result of a European arrest warrant system run amok.
His defence team say that Assange will not get a fair trial in Sweden, but the UK judge said there was no evidence to support that. There's still a concern amongst Julian Assange's supporters, like these people here, that he could eventually end up being taken to the United States, where many people, US politicians among them, believe that he should be tried for espionage and WikiLeaks rated as a terrorist organization.
We are still hopeful that the matter will be resolved in this country. We still remain very optimistic about our opportunities on appeal. The judge made a very important finding in relation to both the fact